forever since we've been in here. We've been planning this for 3 weeks now, just to have you in the door.
I
But
lost track.
sometimes life gets in the way.
Life does
but
get in the way,
it's nice to actually I find that that's happened with us in the past year. It's nice when we finally get to sit down and do the podcast, especially when life happens, either knee injuries or I'm away on a Spartan race or whatever is happening. So we're here now with Stephan. I just learned how to say that.
Yep.
Azulay.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Good job, Riley.
That's half the battle of starting these podcasts is can I say the person's name? And then we can get going. But London-born ballet dancer,
Yep.
trained at Academy Ballet in Sydney from 2006 to 2008, obtained an advanced diploma in dance from the Victorian College of the Arts, has danced with the Joffrey Ballet Concert Group and Nevada Ballet Theatre,
Yep.
is passionate about food, which we talked about on the way in,
Yep.
and what some may call a foodie. I always call people that love food foodies. So, and is now a Royal Winnipeg Ballet dancer as part of the Corps du Ballet.
Yep. That was all.
I try and bring out the French immersion schooling that I took in the early parts of my life. But and now performing in The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
That's the one that's.
Yeah, we just had a performance for Ballet and the Band. It was a collaboration we did with Brothers Landreth. And we had one day off, and then we started working on Wizard of Oz. So this last week was that. The rehearsals were crazy. It was awesome, though. It was a lot of... Everyone kept just saying, oh, my brain is so dead. What food is good for your brain, everyone was just fried. But it was a fun week, and we're super excited. So those shows are May 1st to 5th, and it's going to be a riot.
That's crazy to just those transitions from performing one thing, you maybe get comfortable with that, and then all of a sudden that quick transition to a new piece or project. I can't imagine just that mind state, because you're probably exhausted by the end of that last one. So then to shift and then have to do it all over again.
That's crazy, though. Only 1 day of rest, you said, right?
Usually we get 2.
Okay, good.
But this, it's the way the season worked out. That there's a short time frame for the rehearsals for Wizard of Oz. Usually, for a new production, we'll get 1 extra week, but we got 4 weeks basically until shows. So and there's a long weekend coming up, so they were we just need to rehearse as much as we can, as quickly as possible. So
how long do rehearsals typically last? Just as long as they need to, or
day to day, or so we pretty much rehearse all day long. There's always stuff to do, so we hardly ever don't have work to do or have something to rehearse. So we have company class at 9:30 to 10:45, and then rehearsals from 11 to 6, with a lunch break in there. But the class is basically just for you to maintain your body and to stay in shape and to get warm for the day. And then from that point on, you just rehearse for the rest of the day.
Wow.
How do you keep your body healthy enough to be able to do that day after day?
Well, you gotta eat well. So eat as healthy as possible, and just generally, live a healthy lifestyle. Lots of sleep is important. But with any high stress job, those things can get more difficult than it sounds. I have sleeping problems. So sometimes that doesn't happen. But I try to eat as healthy as I can, and not put too much crap in my body. But at the same time, if you need a beer, you need a beer. So there's a good balance in there somewhere, and
I think that's the word of it, is that balance. But I know that my time playing football, it was always during the seasons. It's a chaotic time, especially I'd say university was the highest level that I played at. But you're in film sessions, you have a practice, a 2 hour to 2.5 to even 3 after the coach is done talking at the end of the night. But then you wake up, and there's some days where it's your body is sore, you've taken these hits, and you're bruised up, and your ankle's not quite working right. So I can only imagine it's the same type of beating that your body takes, just dancing, and maybe you end up on the floor a couple times, hopefully not, maybe not at your level of, but I can only imagine when you're trying to perfect a performance that those things and putting your body in those certain situations might happen too.
You definitely abuse your body, intentionally or not. It's an elitist sport, really. Just like anything, and it's not easy. Otherwise, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
So that's why ballet careers are pretty short. Generally, like if you get past 30, it's a long career. So that puts it into perspective a little bit. But yeah, like yesterday I got a massage, and my massage therapist, just every single thing she worked on, she just went like, "What the hell? Like, what is happening?" You know. But that's just, it's the end of the season, so it's been a long season. We go from like beginning of July to beginning of May, so that's 10 months. Oh, sorry, no tapping.
That's okay.
fine.
That's fine. As long as it's just not slapping the table like I do.
I just thought of this is Sparta moment from 300. But yeah, so it's a long season, and by the end of it, your body's pretty wrecked, you know. So you have to take care of it. But
what goes into like besides diet? Like what goes into keeping you healthy, and like what are into those classes? What do you do?
So I think the biggest thing for me is I do a lot of outside workouts as well. Everyone's different. Like some people find that like class and rehearsal is enough to keep their body in shape. For me, I like to cross train as much as I can. So I'm a busy bee. Like I take Pilates, I go to the gym, I do like spin workouts, just anything I can do, I will do it. So that's one thing though that people are surprised by, because I put a lot of like, well, not just me, but dancers put a lot of extra hours into maintaining their body for rehearsals, right? So sometimes we work out extra every single day. You know, like I don't recall the last time I didn't do anything all day long. Like I always do something in a day, whether it's light workout or heavy workout. You got to keep the body going. But for me, like that and good diet is probably the most important things to just keep myself going.
So for you, what does that entail in terms of a good diet?
Well, lots of protein, lots of carbs, lots of veggies. Really, it's try to cut back on sugar as much as I can, and just have like I eat a lot of food, so I fuel my body. But since I'm burning calories for a living, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well, I imagine you're expending an enormous amount of calories on a daily basis.
I should get like one of those like Fitbit things.
Yeah, I got one.
Watch that.
Yeah,
Measure.
actually track it, because
Yeah.
it'd be insane. Like,
Oh, I'm sure I'd be through the roof.
yeah. So I don't have to watch what I eat in terms of the amounts. I basically eat as much as I can when I have the time. So I have these big meals, and this keeps me fueled for the day. I drink quite a bit of coffee, which I try to cut back. Like once it hits like 2 o'clock, I try not to drink anymore. But yeah, just try to eat wholesome meals and keep it all balanced. Like not too much of one thing in a day.
For sure.
But yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
So I think what fascinates me most about ballet is sort of the mixture between athleticism and art.
Yeah.
So maybe how does that play out? Like obviously you have to take care of your body, but then you also have to be engaged in the pieces and the music and the choreography and the art of it all. So how do you see ballet in your own mind?
Well, everyone's different. I think whenever there is a character to sink your teeth into, it's a lot easier to get invested in it. But that being said, that doesn't mean that every ballet we do there is a character. You know, there's abstract pieces, there's more contemporary pieces. It might just be cool dancing. You know, that might just be fun dancing. There's no character, there's no storyline. It doesn't mean you're not emotionally invested in it. But when there's a character or a story, I guess, you can invest a lot. You know, it's like acting, almost too much sometimes, to where it affects how you are as a person. But everyone's got a different work style and, I guess, ways they approach it. But I like to just go for it, just dive into the character 100%. And sometimes it kind of messes me up in the head a little bit, but when you go on stage, it's worth it. You know, like you can tell if you're on stage and you're invested in the character or not. You know, so it's a lot. Like sometimes there'll be a pretty traumatic, you know, scene in a ballet where someone might die, or you know, it's Romeo and Juliet or something like that. But it's got to be real. You can't go on stage and like, I mean, you can fake it to some degree, but like the emotions have to be real. But if and that takes a toll though. Like whenever you have like a big role like that after the climax of the scene or whatever, you kind of get off stage and it's like it takes a while. Like you do your curtain call and you kind of just like process it. You probably end up crying or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's a lot, But I'd rather be like that than not invest in the character itself,
Yeah, there's got to be a fine line between. I think it's probably better to overinvest and then pull that back a little bit. And how do you stay yourself within that moment, and how do you navigate those waters? I think I was watching the trailer for the new Joker movie, and that seems to be a role. I mean, Heath Ledger ended up passing away, but it seems to be the one role that people in Hollywood, it's these off-cast people that typically do it. Heath Ledger, I would say, was more of he was like a popular actor, whereas now Joaquin Phoenix taking it over. He's one of those, he's been on the outskirts, but it seems to be a role that really messes with people's heads in the end. So it's strange, I think, to be a good actor or a good dancer. It's like, how much do you invest, but then how are you able to stay yourself at the end of the day, too?
Yeah, I think for me, it's important to bring yourself to whatever character you do. Otherwise, it just never works quite as well.
Comes off almost as fake.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's got to feel real. If it doesn't feel real, then it's off. Something's off about it. So no matter, like, even if the character is something completely just not me, you just have to find moments or find little nuances that make it relatable. I did see the trailer of that this morning, and I thought it was freaking awesome. So I'm excited.
It does look very good.
When a trailer is like that intriguing, it gets you so excited,
Yeah. It seems very noir and very strange and I like the pick of Joaquin
unsettling.
Phoenix. Yeah. You just, I don't know. I'm excited to watch it and just see what they do with that character, because it's almost how well Heath Ledger did in that role. It almost seemed that who's going to approach this again, and now to actually see a Joker movie, it's and to look that good, it's exciting for sure.
I hope it's not one of those like great trailer, crappy movie situations. I
or
really want
the entire story was in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it looks awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in ballet and dance, and where did that passion come about?
So my dad is a flamenco dancer. Flamenco is a form of Spanish dancing. But there's a lot of footwork and stuff.
Why am I thinking of that? Is that the hands?
There's castanets, and there's the long
nice.
dresses, and there's a lot of things to it. But it's a pretty serious art form. Like, it's pretty intense. But yeah, so that's what my dad did, and I got into that when I was very, very young. There's like videos of me and photos of me when I was like 2 or 3 years old doing it. And then when we moved to Australia, I started like jazz and tap and hip hop. That was probably about 7, I would say, at that time. Ballet was actually a little bit later. It was like around 10 years old. And then I went to an arts high school. I always thought I was going to be a contemporary dancer. And then I got into the Australian Ballet School. So while I was getting the way it works is kind of like it does here at the school at Royal Winnipeg. While you go to the Australian Ballet School, you go to the Victorian College of the Arts Secondary School for your education. So you finish the education there, and you kind of do the minimum amount you have to do, but still get your high school certificate. But then they also add in extra credits so you can get your diploma and all that kind of good stuff. So once I got into the Australian Ballet School, I guess ballet kind of just took over. The rest is kind of just...
Is there a moment that sticks out as you knew that dance in some form was what you wanted to pursue in your life? Like that it was your passion and that this was the thing that you wanted to get better at?
The funny thing is, I always knew I wanted to dance. There was never a moment. I don't remember not thinking I was going to dance. I always was like, yeah, I'm going to dance. No matter what happens in life, I'm dancing. Like, that's always been a thing, even from a young age.
That's incredible.
Yeah, like...
So what brought on the move from, because you're originally from London, right? That's a big move.
We didn't live there very long. So my dad had like a flamenco production company, I guess. And we were from London, we moved to Munich, and we were there for like 4 years-ish, 4 or 5 years. And then we moved to Australia.
Okay.
So that's right. But yeah, so I grew up in Germany, I guess, and then once we moved to Australia, my mum and I stuck there, and then my dad was bouncing around doing flamenco stuff. So yeah, that's kind of just how it went.
How difficult is it to pick up and move that much and ingrain yourself in different places? Do you feel that it's become easier for you to come to a place like Winnipeg? I think it's your second season with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. So do you almost get used to having to ingrain yourself in a new place, in a new culture, and with new people? Or do you feel that maybe dance helps you have the people that you're dancing with and or on the team or the school or wherever that it's easy to make those links? Or is it maybe difficult to bounce around that much and go to new places all the time?
It's a very jaded question.
I don't mean to be jaded.
No. I mean, well, it's a jaded answer. Is what I should have said. Sorry. No. I guess I do assimilate very easily, but that's probably because of the fact that I've bounced around my entire life. So it doesn't take me very long to integrate myself into a community. But that being said, there's always a weird transition time until I get to that point where I doubt the reason I moved out to wherever I moved to. So when I first got to New York, it was rough. But it didn't take very long until it was the best decision I made ever. And I loved New York after that point since, right? I got to Vegas, I thought it was rough. Then I made my best friends in Vegas, who are still my best friends now. I can't imagine my life without them, right? So at a certain point in each move, there's kind of a breaking point where I'm like, it was worth it, you know?
Yeah.
But until that, I'm like, this is kind of ish, you know, it's kind of rough.
I think it's almost with most things in life is sometimes it's not always easy to make decisions, but it's you make the decision and then you're not quite sure how that's going to turn out or what's going to come of it. So there is that sort of down part after that move where you're like, was this the right decision? I was comfortable or I have friends there and I knew what I was doing. And then it's that build up to then that point where maybe it's better or maybe the opportunity makes you that much more fulfilled after.
I think that goes with any change, right? You're coming out of that sort of comfort zone and going into a whole new environment, especially just even New York to Las Vegas. That's a huge jump right there. They're very different cities.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine coming into Winnipeg and I'm not sure if you experienced cold in London like you do here.
No, so I did date a Canadian girl for a long time while I was in New York and Winnipeg, and she was from Edmonton.
Okay.
So I did know what I was getting myself into. But
that's good.
Doing like a week of it in Christmas is very different than doing a full winter. Mm-hmm. So I think that honestly the turning point for me was when I finally got to the summer of Winnipeg the next season, because I was like, oh, this is something to look forward to. But I think the change makes you grow as a person and as an artist as well. I think the one, I guess, through line is that I've always made the decisions based on my career. So I don't. It's not that I have regrets, but I do miss the good things about the last place. But at the same time, I don't really look back because I'm just trying to give my career its full value, you know, while it lasts.
As a dancer, is moving is that a regular thing for most dancers to move around that much?
Not really. I mean, some people do it.
Okay.
Some people do bounce around a lot, but it's tough. It's really tough to, you know, start fresh again and again. So it's very easy to get comfortable in so many ways, financially and kind of just within the community you're in. And in Vegas, when I left, I was doing great dancing. I was doing really well in the company, but I just felt like I needed something. I want to say bigger. I don't know if big is the best way to describe it, but just something of more value. And I auditioned for all Canadian companies. So this was the only one I got into, so I took it. Also with ballet, if you get a job offer, you take it. You don't think twice because there's not many job offers. And
oh, really?
Yeah. There's never many jobs available. So if you do get an offer and it's better than your last situation, you don't think twice, unless you're really comfortable. So yeah, it's kind of, you got to find a balance there. But
I think that's a unique path, the fact that you knew what you wanted to do from such a young age and have been pursuing it ever since. I would say that, I mean, personal experiences, I've bounced around and there have been different things on that maybe passion, the thing that I want to achieve, the purpose or passion. But I think it's really interesting that you've had this path, that you've known what you've wanted to do, but has there ever been that moment where you thought it might not happen for you, or that dance or ballet, like, was there ever sort of that in-between part where you're like, I don't know if this is what I can continue to do for much longer?
I would say the closest time I got to that was between Australia and New York. At the time, when I was in school in Melbourne, so this would have been, I was 18, and I was actually kicked out of school because of my legs. It's like a ballet thing. Like, it's the way they looked, they didn't like it. It's like very strict school. So I wish there was a cooler story. Like, I got busted for whatever, but no, I was a great student. But that's pretty harsh as a kid that works hard. I've always worked my ass off. So that was probably my lowest point. But what I didn't realize at the time was when I moved to New York, my world and my perception of dance just exploded. Like, it went from this small little island, well, it's a big island, but this island in the middle of nowhere with a couple companies, to all of North America, So in some ways it was the best thing that ever happened to me, but it was rough. There was a couple of rough months there where I was pretty depressed. But I never thought I was going to stop dance, that's for sure. I just wasn't feeling too great about it, or about myself. So it was really just a self-esteem thing. But
is that a prevalent thing in ballet, about like the body types and the certain looks and things? Like, does it become very much focused on those aesthetics?
Depends where you are. A lot of companies are different, but each company has something they're looking for.
Yeah.
And maybe that what they're looking for is diversity. But usually companies have a pretty kind of strict like array of what they want. So a lot of the times when you audition somewhere, they'll say, sorry, we don't have a job for you because you're too tall. Because we need a person that's between 5'9" and 5'11", or whatever it might be, right? So it's pretty cutthroat in the ballet industry, to be honest.
No kidding. It sounds like it. Like, I can't imagine the heartbreak that people must go through. It has nothing to do with their dancing ability. It's like, oh, you're too tall, or your legs don't look the way we want them to look. Yeah. Something that's completely out of your control, right?
And it screws with you. Like, I've extreme confident issues about my legs ever since that time in my life, right? Like, it gets better, and you kind of are like, oh, there's more things to ballet than just that. And I've obviously had a very good career since, so it's okay. But like, those kind of things really fuck you up. So that's why a lot of dancers, mentally, all sorts of screwed up. Is just because it's so brutal. Mm-hmm. I know so many people that are amazing dancers that just are a couple inches too short, and there's nothing they can do about that.
So what does that get in the way of? Like, why aren't they ones that are sought after? Are there certain lifts or certain things that people have to be doing? Is that the majority of it, or is it just a looks thing?
I would say the biggest, let's say the most common example is that you have a lot of men that are too short that aren't given opportunities, because when you're a lot shorter than maybe a tall guy, it makes some lifting a bit awkward. It's not even that there's a strength issue; it's just ratios. If you're really short and there's a girl that you're partnering or a guy that you're partnering that's taller than you, then it gets difficult, So that's probably the most common one, I would say. It's
interesting to me because it almost seems that it almost again, I hate using football analogies all the time, but it's towards my comprehension of how things work. But I find that there are coaches or choreographers, and maybe in your case, but that you can bring in people to fit into the system, or you can build a system around the people that you have. So it's almost, how can we make those skills that those people have shine? Funny enough, another video that I was watching today on YouTube was Muggsy Bogues, who was a 5'3" NBA basketball player, but at certain times was one of the best at his position. Yeah. So and we can become amazed in those situations of the people that are, maybe if it is a shorter dancer or a really tall dancer, or, why can't that be something that's different about them that can be showcased or magnified in a good way, as opposed to never letting them in the door. I think that it's probably interesting now, just in terms of the way the world's shifting, just sort of that, I don't want to say everyone can do anything, but we sort of value the fact that you might not fit the mold, but you can break the mold a little bit.
I agree. I think we're embracing diversity a lot more as a society. I think ballet companies would be better about it, but the biggest problem is money. There's always a limit to how many people you can hire. If we had more money, I'm sure there'd be more space for people to, for more space for just more. Because I agree, I think we should embrace everyone no matter how they look or are. And there's a lot of people that are very talented and could do amazing things, but that might be too tall, too short, too whatever. I think you should make room for people with talent, no matter what the situation. But I think the biggest hurdle for ballet companies is money. I mean, for any arts organization, really. But yeah.
So it's, how do you keep the fan base coming back and give them a product that they're interested in and passionate about and happy with? And so does it then become, do you think is ballet a little bit stuck in the traditionalist view of things? Or do you find that they are, I mean, I guess you have said that it's becoming more diverse, but is there still this sense of we want to give the crowd this exact product that they can engage with? Do you find ballets evolving in the dance sense, or is it
ballet has evolved a lot.
Yeah,
it has evolved. Even with the classical ballets, it's all evolved. What I think has changed drastically, more than ballet itself, is the entertainment industry. Let's say in the last 30 years, for example, it used to be that you went to, if you wanted to go out, you went to the play, the opera, the orchestra, or the ballet. Those were the kind of the things that culturally we would do. But now you can go home, watch Netflix all night. Or just not even put the TV on. I just watch things on my phone. So I think the entertainment industry has just drastically changed, for better or for worse. But it does make it hard for ballet companies, for sure, just because there's so many things to do, and it's harder and harder to engage a younger audience every day.
Yeah, I think theater has that same problem, especially in Canada right now. Have you? So because ballet is both dance and acting kind of in one, have you ever explored acting outside of dance, or have those two things always gone together?
I've never personally explored that. I mean, I go to the theater all the time, but I don't really act outside of the studio or the stage. I've gotten into the front of a camera quite a bit recently, where I guess I'm kind of acting. Whether it's interviews or food shows or whatever, which is kind of strange to me, to be put in the spotlight. But you'd think I'd be okay with it. But as soon as you put a dancer in front of a camera, they just freak out. It's I don't know. It's weird.
A camera tends to do that to people.
Yeah.
It's very different, and it's because it kind of breaks that personal space of yours a little bit. Where in theater, I don't know, I can't speak for dance because I've never danced, but I've taken theater. In theater, you don't have that. Your personal space is on the stage, right? You don't have the audience or a camera in that space to invade it. So I think having a camera invades it a little bit and can make you very uncomfortable very fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen you do a bunch of photo shoots lately. How have those come about, and how are you enjoying doing those too?
I mean, they've been great. I think the ones you're probably thinking of are the ones with Mike. Yeah,
likely.
Those ones, I mean, they are photo shoots, but I don't really think of them as photo shoots. I just go to a studio and have fun and probably drink a couple beers and then just jump in his frame at an inappropriate time, and then you get a photo.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know, like it's good for me. I'm trying to like increase my like social media presence. So whenever there's a photo shoot of any kind of nature, I try to just get in it or be part of it and just get some content, just be as involved as I can possibly. So
isn't that the story of everybody lately, is like trying to increase my social media presence?
Yep.
I got to do it for my business, for my personal brand, for my, it's interesting how our world just, are you doing that specifically towards your ballet career, or is it more just personally for yourself?
Mostly for my ballet career, but also just like within, okay, so here's the thing. I personally think that in Winnipeg especially, that people are more likely to come to the ballet if they know someone. So you basically are just making it more personal to each person, right, that you meet or know, or so have like a friendship with or acquaintance with. So I'm trying to build myself like as a figure, I guess, as an artist, but that's also like, it's just to like bring more pull to the ballet as well, and that's not in our job description at all. But I do think that that's something that we can do that benefits us, benefits the company, and I think it goes a long way. There's a lot of people that I have met since coming to Winnipeg that always ask me when the next thing is, or if they see, like for example, there's a plaque of Wizard of Oz at the airport now, and every time someone sees it, they're like, "Oh, I saw you at the airport, Wizard of Oz. You're going to be Scarecrow." I was like, yeah, "Cool, like awesome." You're going to come? They're like, "Yeah, sure." Great, awesome. My work's done for. Sorry, I clapped.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's
I get excited.
excitement is welcome.
Yeah. So that's awesome, right? Like that makes it. I don't know. That makes me happy that people see the interest and they want to come to the show. There's nothing worse than doing a show with no audience members in it. So, yeah, that's pretty much why, really.
That's an interesting transition. It used to be that people would go out in the community and there'd be community events and there would be all sorts of, I think of all the rural communities and their like harvest festivals and the apple picking festival and a lot of them start as those agricultural festivals to bring towns together and things. But you would have figures from these prominent organizations, probably even ballet, that's how you'd get people to come. And now it's interesting that's shifted. You don't have that human contact necessarily. In a certain sense you do, but now it's all social media based and your presence, how many people follow you, how good your pictures are, because then they're at the top of the algorithm. It's so strange that...
You heard of the 4 words or more thing?
No.
So like, if you have, the more comments you have on a picture or whatever, if it's 4 words or more, the Instagram will like pump it up in like all the algorithms.
Really?
Yeah, the more it has to be more than 4 words, otherwise it doesn't count.
We need to get people to comment 4 words, more than 4 words. Yeah.
So sometimes I literally just write 4 words or more. People are like, "What?" And I'm like, "You're welcome."
Pumping you up.
But 4 words or more is only 4 words, so it doesn't count.
4 words or more.
Yeah, 4
so
words.
if it's 4 words or more, okay.
Yeah,
We're good.
Just need the 4 words.
Yeah, you made me freak out for 1 second.
You're like, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. I didn't mean to scare you like that. That's great.
Sorry, that was a really random tangent.
No, tangents are completely welcome. It's always just like, where do we go after that? Yeah. It's like, it is constantly weighing things out in my mind. But so of all the places that you lived so far, which is maybe your favorite that you've lived in? I know that's a loaded question. You don't have to say Winnipeg, although Winnipeg is good. We are in the playoffs.
You don't have to say Winnipeg, but
but I am obviously biased. But maybe of the other places you've
No.
lived,
Winnipeg has a lot of things I always brag about. I just think it's hard for me to pick a favorite city non-biasedly because, like, for example, my best friend's in Vegas, so I automatically just think that. But Vegas as a city wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
At all. Everything around Vegas is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's Mount Charleston, there's Red Rock Canyon, there's the Grand Canyon, there's all the lakes. Like, it's insane. There's a 3-hour drive to LA. You know, like, it's everything around it is fantastic. The city itself, not my favorite. That being said, there's still amazing people there, and a lot of cool things to see. New York, I think, just for me, those were like 2 years that I will never forget. And I learned so many things. I just met so many people. It's such a hub. It was tough because I wasn't getting paid as much at that point. So I worked as like a janitor. I worked as
also much more expensive to live out there, I'm sure, too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So Vegas was actually very cheap too.
Really?
If you're off the strip, there's a lot of affordable places. But when Winnipeg is very affordable to live, so I'm the most comfortable I've ever been here financially, for sure. And I live a great lifestyle. I eat out lots, spend time with people, and I can do other side projects, and it's okay. But New York, there was definitely more of a grind, for sure. But it was just amazing 2 years. Like, there's so much to see in New York. It's just crazy. I hated Times Square though. Fucking sucked.
What is it about Times Square you didn't?
Oh, just all of the shit. Just like all the people and the things and the hoo-has and the whatnots and the just so fake.
I have two mini stories. One of them is on that line is, for some reason in Disney World, I became claustrophobic because there was so much humanity around. And I'm not a claustrophobic person, 100%. Like, in closed spaces, lock me in a little box, I'm sure I'd be fine. I'd probably talk to myself for a long time before I got bored of that. But it was just something about there's people as far as your eyes can see, and there's these really tacky rides and stuff, and you're just, it became a little bit overwhelming to me. That was just the side note, the similar to Times Square and just seeing all the humanity and things. But then Australia to me is one of those beautiful places that I would go back to in a heartbeat just to go surfing and go back to Byron Bay, which is my home away from home.
If you don't know Byron Bay, check it out.
Yeah.
You're missing a lot.
But I had the privilege of going to Tasmania and then all the way from Sydney up to Cairns, as the locals call it, not Cairns as it looks like on the map for us Canadians. That's how it's spelt if you want to Google that too. But it was really cool because I got to volunteer in Tasmania and then travel completely up the East Coast and do adventure tourism. So it was part of a student volunteer group. We went in and got to travel with people of a similar age, which was great because I was traveling by myself. But basically got to have all these experiences in a condensed period of time because it was summer break for university, and then even got to stop off in Fiji on the way back, which was also a really cool cultural experience. I found that the Australians were so similar in culture to Canadians.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Besides the extreme accent difference. And the quantity of swearing. It's pretty similar lifestyle.
Do we swear less here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never been to Australia, so I'm not very familiar.
Yeah, we swear a lot.
It wasn't the swearing, but it's actually the accent that first attracted me to going to Australia. Yeah. But then I was traveling with a bunch of Americans, so I had to hear the Americans and didn't get to know enough Australians, in my opinion. So
there's actually a group of us here in Winnipeg of Australians.
So do you consider yourself an Australian then, even if you're...
So my background is all over the place.
Neapolitan.
Yeah, my mom's Portuguese and my dad's Moroccan, and I have English citizenship. I could get it, I guess, and I could get Portuguese citizenship. And but when I say I'm saying I'm from Australia because I grew up majority of my life there. I have an Australian passport. I use that. So, but it's confusing because then I start digressing, and they're like, "So wait, where are you from?" But what? Munich? What? Like London? What? I don't get it. So it's great. I mean, I've got a crazy background. It's awesome.
I did want to talk a little bit more about the dancing side of things, and wanted to know, Is there like a moment that you've had on stage that was like, I don't know, I can think back of the athletic times that I've had or even performing in bands or something, but there's sometimes those moments where you're just like lost in it and really enjoy it. Have you had some of those in your career?
Oh yeah, every single time I do a significant role, there's a moment like that, and I don't know if it's because I will it or if it just happens naturally, but I can't think of any show that I've done where there hasn't been some sort of moment like that. And it's probably mostly to the point that we like rehearse something for us is a really long time. To most people, it seems probably like nothing. We rehearse something so long every day for a certain period of time, and then we finally get on stage. There's something magical about that. I guess the most special moment I can think of is when I did Giselle, so the main male character in that is Albrecht. And it was with my best friend Alyssa. She was a dancer in the company. And it was just, I don't know, I won't ever be able to forget that moment on stage. Like she's dead already in the story, and she comes back as a spirit. And there's this, the ending of the ballet was just, it was so emotional. It was insane. Yeah, like I cried for a solid 10 minutes after that show, bow and all. It was, it's a lot of, it's an emotional thing, like, and it's, you just, like, you pour your heart out on stage. And I remember, like, the review was like something like, the dancing was so beautiful, the partnering was amazing. It seemed a little melodramatic at the end, and I just thinking, like, I was crying on stage. Like, there was no mellow anything. That was like 100% real, Mm-hmm. So anyway, no, whatever, that's fine. But yeah, those moments they mean a lot, and they stick with you. And part of the problem with that, though, is that you're always searching for the next one. So I think one of my biggest, maybe it's not an issue, just traits is that I'm never quite satisfied. I'm always looking for something more or better, or I'm always on the search for something, which is good and bad. Depends how you're looking at it, I guess. But
are those the moments that keep you coming back to ballet and that keep you passionate about it?
Every time you go on stage, you're like, this is why I do it. Like all the sweat and the tears and the pains and the injuries and the crazy hours that you put into it. You go on stage, you're like, it's all worth it. So yeah,
How do you cope then, because you're so invested in a role like that and the seasons are so busy, going from one show to the next and going, basically having that day in between the show ending and then starting rehearsing for the next show? How do you just turn yourself off from that previous role to get ready for the next one?
You don't? No, I find I have to keep myself going until at a certain point in every season I have a little emotional meltdown. But I just keep myself busy and keep myself going and onto the next thing. And then I don't know. It's hard for me to not keep myself busy. I don't really have downtime. It's a lot easier for me to just kind of keep myself occupied and invested in something. We have a little off season. So we get 2 months off, and a lot of us will go travel and kind of have like this nice holiday and stuff like that. I'm dancing kind of all throughout May still, but then I'll get June off and have a kick-ass birthday party beginning of June, and just take some time, just chill out, I guess. But I don't know. It's a very fortunate thing to be paid to do something you love, right? So, it's taxing emotionally and physically, but at the same time, it's a very fortunate situation.
I could just tell the way you speak about it. It seems very fulfilling in your life. Yeah.
I think the biggest downside to it is once it's done, I think dancers struggle to find something to replace that. So a lot of people, when they retire as dancers, they struggle for a long time until they find something that replaces, dance, or it fills it up in some capacity. A lot of people.
You were saying too, like if if you make it past 30 as a dancer,
That's a
so
good
I guess
thing.
a lot of people are retiring around that age then as a dancer, so that you still have your whole life ahead of you at that point.
So it used to be a lot worse. Now these days, people are planning for that, going to school on the side, and I'm not the best person when it comes to school. I'm more of a just figure out how to do it and do it kind of thing. I'll work 14 hours a day before I have to go to a course. That's the way I am. I sucked at school. I was good in class, but I just anyway. But a lot of people are planning ahead and trying to get like degrees and kind of have a plan B set. I have a lot of ongoing kind of passions and stuff, whether it's food or woodwork or just anything creative, really. So I'm not worried. I like when I get to that point, I'm sure I'll figure it out. I always will figure it out, I think. I've been blessed, I guess, to have all these side little stints on the way on my dance career. So I've got a lot of experience in a lot of different things. People are always surprised when I say, yeah, I used to do that. They're like, yeah, you're lying. I'm like, no, I did it. I was, I did that for a year or whatever, whatever it might be.
Sure.
I do think, though, it's something that has to be at the back of your head, at least. Because otherwise, if you haven't thought about it at all, and you might have an injury that you don't get to choose when you finish.
That's true.
Like that happens a lot of the time. Whether it's a torn ACL or something in your
torn
hip
ACL, yeah.
So,
You know nothing about that, right, Jayse?
so that's a big one that takes a lot of dancers out. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't.
Very common knee injury for sure. But yeah, in all facets of life, it can take you out. Football players very common. Hockey players very common.
Yeah.
Sports just in general. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Okay. No, I was just gonna ask then, as a dancer then right now, that being your career, do you see that just doing as in the foreseeable future? Do you just see yourself doing that as long as you possibly can then?
Yeah. If I don't like to put an age that I want to get to, but if I can get to 35ish around that kind of time, I'd be happy with that. But I'm going to dance as long as I can for as hard as I can, and I'll see where it gets me. Kind of just take it year by year, I guess. There's someone in the company now that's 41. That's very good. That doesn't happen often. And there's been people that have danced longer than that, but I would say most people aim for like 33, and then they're like, okay, maybe it's time I hung up the shoes.
Well, I always imagine dancing too. Like the first thing I think was like that's going to be very hard on your feet, ankles, calves over a long period of time.
I think feet is a big one for especially women because they're in the punches. And then for guys, usually it's backs. Usually,
Backs, really?
Yeah. There's just the nature of all the lifting and all the jumping. It's just a lot of if you're not lifting properly, your back it takes a toll. So even though like the surprise injuries can be the most sudden, it's the kind of ongoing chronic things that really are tough as well. And then at a certain point, you're like, I just can't take it. So then that happens. It's a long kind of time for your body to be doing something of that capacity. So something's got to give.
Well, exactly. Well, it's anything. Doing the same repetitive motion is eventually going to take its toll on your body in some form or another.
Yeah, we're lucky that we have, here we have a physio in-house. But it's hard because, like, for me, I'm always rehearsing, which is great. It's a great thing. I'm not complaining about that. But the only time I have to go see the physio is really my lunch break. So, and 15 minutes is like, a slot is 15 minutes, right? So it's not really enough time to fix something. You kind of just keep things at bay, whatever it might be. So, yeah, a lot of the time, like, for me, the reason I go to the gym so much and I take Pilates and, whatever it might be, yoga, you name it, I'd probably do it, is I'm just trying to, like, condition my body to the best I can condition it to. And hopefully that lets me have a longer career, and perform better as well.
I think it's a very healthy way to look at it, for sure.
Yeah.
There's something that really, it speaks to the athletic side of it. I think that I don't know, not knowing ballet and not knowing what you had went through until you shared these stories, it's like there is something very much the life of an athlete is almost the exact same thing, where it's trying to keep your nagging injuries at bay, and those are the things that are always in the back of your mind that you're always trying to take care of. There's the intense preparation of your body and your mind and your, even your soul into the things, right? And you live for those moments when you're performing, whether it's on the field, on the stage, wherever your place is. And I think that that's something that's really cool. And I think that it's interesting that there's even the sense of the arts and the band, when the band's on stage and they're playing, they can have those moments of just the singer hits a note and everybody's in rhythm and flow. And so I guess I see the sides of the picture to it that I previously haven't, but it's such a beautiful, it's interesting that there's something so similar, but then the struggles are also similar too. So it's a complicated puzzle. I think in terms of any sort of, and I would say physical pursuit in a certain sense, but that's why it seems that ballet goes beyond and even into the arts and the mental and the emotional. Obviously those are parts of sports, but I would say more so to the art side too. But there's just this holistic picture that comes into focus, and it's cool, all these things that you're able to accomplish with it. I did want to know who inspires you most, either in ballet or life.
Honestly, I don't really. Depends. I don't have anyone that I like. I've been such a motivated person for so long that I don't really seek inspiration. I do find, but I don't know. I don't want to seem like a dick when I say that, but I kind of did. I find inspiration in things for sure, all the time. Whether it's just meeting someone cool, at the coffee shop that's into something creative, that's inspiring to me. Or whether it's just like someone being super generous, that's inspiring as well. I think for me, just because they're around me all the time, my colleagues inspire me a lot. Like the people I work with in the studio, they're pretty amazing. It's amazing to have that many people committed to a single thing. I'm beyond committed; they're giving their lives to it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm a big fan of creating a really good working relationship with your peers, and I really enjoy it. It's when you work with the right people, it's a special thing. That's what I miss about Vegas, to be honest, the most, is that I worked with my best friends, Alyssa and Josh. I don't know, we loved each other, man. It was a great life. And we I think we got sick of each other. We worked together, we lived together. It was crazy, but they're my favorite people, And there's amazing people here too. There's some incredible people I get to work with at the ballet, and it's an honor to be able to share the stage with them, and the studio space. Yeah. In terms of outside inspiration, I don't really know.
Which is very self-motivated.
Yeah. I guess when I don't really, because nothing really comes to Winnipeg in terms of dance. When I, let's say, in Vegas was the same, but in terms of ballet and contemporary in New York, I used to see a lot of shows, and that's really when I see a show like that, you just want to get up and dance, right? But the last thing that came here was BGM, was Ballet Jazz in Montreal. But besides that, there hasn't really been anything to watch in that kind of field. There is actually there's a couple there's School of Contemporary Dances. They have some projects and shows that run. I've seen a couple of those, and I always get super inspired by that. But yeah, you kind of just have to inspire yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Something about your personality, you seem very open and intuitive to the adventure of life.
Yeah.
I think the way you go through it, it's cool that you would be at a place like 290 McDermott, and then you're talking to somebody and find the woodworker and go meet them, go befriend them, and then all of a sudden end up on this, doing these different things in terms of apparently food is involved with it too, or woodworking you even mentioned too. So it's interesting how, and I almost envy that in people. I find that I am similar in certain circumstances. I almost wish I had a little bit more of that openness, but it's sort of it's almost making the best of the situation at hand, but it's also just being open to the conversation that leads you somewhere, or moving somewhere that allows you an opportunity. And I think it's being genuine to, like, where's your heart in that moment? That's something that I was reading earlier today too, is like, that's the life there's sort of two paths. One you follow, and actually my favorite part of it is they both lead nowhere. And it's Don Juan, and it's like Carlos Costanza. I can't even remember what the book's called. And it's actually all about hallucinogens and some weird shit. I'll say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Don Juan figure, which I thought of as prior to that as like Don Juan being the one that picks up women for some reason. But it's this more spiritual leader. And he says there are two paths, both lead to nowhere. But one is you follow your heart and you live this life that's full of passion and fulfillment. And, that's the one that's becomes worthwhile, right? And there are things that you're going to encounter on both paths. There's the other path, and it leads to bitterness and being upset with life, and it becomes a curse, right? Like life becomes a curse living in that road. So it's being genuine and honest to where your heart is in that moment, or wherever your passion lays. I think that's one of the key things that you can do in life. And so I guess that's why I'm jealous, because I think I constantly, I think I'm very much a tweener in a certain sense. Like I like a certain life of, not comfort. I don't think that I strive for a life of comfort, but it's a life of, I think I want the meaning, but I also want to have the experiences and things that I want in life. And it's like, where's the bridge to that, right? And so I think with your path, what I really respect is that you followed something and you've known since the beginning of time, but then it's like all these adventures that you have along the way seem to be a reflection of that, right? It's where your heart is, what you're into and passionate about. So that's, I don't know, that's a cool thing that I picked up on.
It's funny because every now and then people are like, so maybe you should just stop dance and do this. I'm like, hell no. I kind of get offended actually, because I'm like, you think I'm going to stop dance? I'm like, come on. Like, just because I have all these other things doesn't mean I don't love dance. I can't imagine my life without it. But I just think, why just solely be one thing? I don't know. I find that everything I learn outside of dance makes me a better artist, makes me a better person, and ends up having a better result, So.
And I think that's a healthy view of it too, because I think oftentimes people put that passion and that is their whole life.
Right.
And so when you're talking about the end of career, whether it's an athlete or ballet dancer, and not being able to find the next step, it's like, okay, if that was your whole life and you take that away, whether it is that injury, and I've almost found that the world has or universe or whatever power that be, has a way of forcing you to confront those things. And I think that it's happened in my own life where I've become injured and been like, oh, my whole life was football, my whole life was this, and have to reflect and go, well, I need to become more of a holistic person. I need to pursue different things, go to school or what have you. But it's, and what is it? Stephen King even writes that his favorite thing was when he suffered substance abuse and all sorts of things, but life became full when he put his desk to the side of the room, which really meant his life didn't revolve around writing anymore. It was his life contributed to the things that he wrote.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to spit at you there.
That's fine.
And we need to hydrate a little bit. You guys saw it.
Yeah. Ones that are watching.
But it's, but yeah, it's interesting though, just these different paths. But it does seem to be most fulfilling when you have that passion, but it is life that contributes to that passion. But it is tough to find that balance. I think there probably are times where you feel that you're over-invested in one side or the other. And sometimes life calls, and sometimes that passion calls. And so I think as people, we're just constantly trying to weigh things out, do the best we can and balance those things. But it's a hard equation to crack though. I don't think and it's constantly in flux too.
Yeah, life is never going to be perfect. It's just as good as it can be, you know. Like it's, I don't know. I mean, you know, that conversation got my brain going all sorts of different directions.
I don't mean to be too spacey.
No, it's fine. I enjoy it. It's okay. So, for example, I don't know. The thing I try to do the most is just surround myself with interesting people and circumstances. This morning, I was out in Eli. There was 2 farmers at the table. Mike, who's a photographer. Well, he's actually an engineer, but he's a photographer as well. And then Brent, who's a woodworker, and me, I'm a dancer / whatever the hell you want to call me. And we were just finding parallels in all of our fields, right? And it was one of those cool moments. I was like, this is so interesting and creative, you know, like it's different. It's not boring at all. So I don't even know why I started talking about that, but I just think it's really healthy to just keep yourself like as much as possible in the best kind of environment as you can, whether it's, you know, good company or not. I know, like I've always been kind of a socialite, kind of butterfly or whatever you want to call it. Some people aren't like that, and that's fine. That's totally okay. But you just put yourself in a situation that you want to be in, I guess, is the biggest thing for me. But yeah.
Yeah, to me, it's all about having those experiences.
Yeah.
Really, it's putting yourself in those situations that help you to grow as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing that I hope for everyone. And you can see often people that don't get outside their comfort zone,
Right.
that stay within their own personal bubble, and they think that what they're doing is what they should be, but it's not really true to who they are. And it is those people that eventually, I think sometimes you set off on that path and things can be okay for a while, but then you start to go, oh, I've invested so much and, you know, my life revolves around this, like, and then they become bitter and it becomes a curse. And I think to me, I've always been somebody who wants to be genuine and authentic. I think that that's one of my core values of others and myself. I think, and it's being self-critical. You have to stay on that path, but it becomes difficult at times because others want sometimes for you to be what they think, like, I don't know how to say that, what they expect you to be or what they want you to be or things like that. So I had somebody even reach out to me and say, you know, why did I buy the blue fanny pack? And it was like, well, because I like it and that's me. I'm that person. I'm sort of ridiculous at times. I enjoy doing those random things. And it's that purchase that was just for joy. It wasn't expensive. It was like, this is goofy, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to wear it and I want it. So why not? And so it's having that little bit of fun along the way. And so I think I try and defend that at times, like defend that part of yourself. And I think similarly, it's like, you got to defend you against the world sometimes and be like, but it's hard to find that sense of individuality and who you are. Like, this world's so confusing, especially in the young ages. Yeah. I think of the times that I conformed to the group and the times that I was an outcast. But it's hard to, I think everybody seeks that inclusion and that involvement in people's lives.
Do you think that's why, so like bringing this to the fanny pack situation, do you think that's why you become so defensive in that situation, is because you want that person to be able to accept you?
Well, and I think I like to think I artfitly do it. It's not like I'm going to be like, fuck you for saying I have a fanny pack, or like for calling me out on getting it. But it's more like artfully being like, well, it spoke to me. I'm living that the fanny pack life chose me was sort of my, I didn't choose the fanny pack life. The fanny pack life chose me was my rebuttal. And then it was, I got the blue one. And yet there was a pink one too, and they're like, "I'm surprised you didn't get that one." I said, "Well, I did." So but it's this constant. I don't know. We're always treading these waters and trying to find what's the best path forward. But I think it's, if you live too far to one side, it becomes isolating.
Yeah.
You know, if you're too far outside the box, then you're living outside the box by yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're too much ingrained in what everybody else is doing or the group is doing, then you get caught up in that. So again, it's this, how do you be true to yourself within doing those waters and treading those waters?
We all find ourselves in situations that we're defending ourselves against other person's whatever it is, like their criticism, right? To some level, even though it really means nothing. Like to me, it's always been because I go to the gym and the first thing I do is take my shoes off to go to the back to before I go train, right? And what do people see on me is that I wear colorful socks all the time. Like, yeah, and it's I've always done it, and it's just something I like doing, and I will continue to do it. But many times I will get stopped and be like, "Oh, why are you wearing colorful socks? Why are your socks not matching?" And I find myself defending it sometimes. I'm like, I don't really need to defend this though. Like I wear it because I want to wear it, and if you don't agree with that, that's your opinion, and that opinion doesn't affect me. Yeah. So I just think sometimes we get so caught up in trying to defend ourselves, and maybe because we want to have a sense of belonging to that person or want to always be accepted by everyone. But at some point, you're not going to always be accepted, right? So we got to just be like, hey, well, you have your opinion, I have mine, and let's go our separate ways.
I think it's tough sometimes too, because it's like being authentic. I want to bring something into this too, is the fact that we all drink and we all go. I'm not going to say everybody does, but it's like we go to places to let go of our inhibitions and that self-consciousness that we typically have, and then so that we can better ingrain and talk to people openly and things. And so I think that's sort of a shield, right, that people use is like, I think of music festivals and stuff, and everybody's high on drugs, and they're all like, I love everybody, but you only love everybody because of that state. Like, wouldn't it be much better to try and achieve that state in a natural sense, or just follow those things just I'll again say naturally.
I don't do drugs, so I can't speak to that. But I used to drink a lot more, and I am an introvert, so drinking helped me kind of open up more publicly, or to be more social with people in social situations. But I've never liked it. I always hated the fact that I relied on me getting to a drunk state in order to open up myself. And I drink a lot less now, and I think I feel better because of it, because I've always wanted to find a way to be more socially open in social situations. So I've always tried to put myself in situations where I feel awkward and uncomfortable. And parts of that was working for Rogers and working in cell phones and just dealing with people a lot, and even personal training. And part of me going in personal training is just, well, I have to work one-on-one with people every single day, and I have to talk to new people every day to try to get them to work out. So those are always very uncomfortable situations for me, even today. But I also, whenever I'm done with that interaction, I look back on it and I'm so happy that I did it, because it makes me feel more open in my own way without having to rely on anything except myself. And I feel like more people need to be able to find that their own way of dealing with that and doing that, and not rely on things like drugs or alcohol, because those things are short-lived. They're very bad for your health. I'm not saying you can't do those things every now and then, but the people who are the weekend warriors who'd have to do it every single weekend, right? And just be able to, if you want to be that person, then do it without having to rely on the substance abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough line to.
Yeah.
And but the biggest thing is that sometimes you find those experiences, like it can be a rewarding thing, like when you're celebrating or you're together or it can create that cohesion. But then there's also the sense of like, the party goers that do it every night. It's like, then those relationships then are built on nothing. So it's like, it can be sort of an addition to a good time, or it can be eventually a detriment to your life is sort of centered around this thing that, again, is the nothingness isn't really worth it. I know this is a random tangent.
No, sorry.
It has nothing to do with you or ballet or food.
It's okay. I've been talking a lot, so it's good to just listen. I enjoy listening.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how, I want to get into the food and the foodie and the things that you're passionate about in that sense. So how did this project come about? Are you allowed to talk about it yet? I don't want to.
Sure. It's just a collaboration between a couple people, and we're not really sure what it's going to be yet, but it's just about food, and that's awesome. So my dad was as well as a dancer, he was a chef as well. So growing up, I was very spoiled when it came to food. And I guess when I moved to New York, I started cooking a lot more. And then from that point on, I kind of had like second jobs or third jobs in the food industry. And it was just always, just a good way to take your mind off things for me. And I enjoy everything about it. I enjoy the process of it, the prep for it, and then the result. So yeah, I love food and everything about it. When I got to Winnipeg, I worked at Miss Brown's for a little bit. And then I worked at Tom Bargain for a little bit as a baker. And then I worked at Langside Grocery, first as a server and then as a cook. So yeah, like in Vegas, I worked as a pizza boy.
Wow.
That was crazy. There was one summer where I was, oh my God, I was working like 14 hours, 8 days a week. And it was just insane. It was crazy. I mean, I did the pizza, I did the cashier, I did the delivery driving, like all at the same time. It was a lot. But you know, I wasn't making that much money then, so I had to supplement during the summer. But yeah, so one day I would love to like open up some sort of food establishment, whether it be like a cafe or a restaurant or even if it's just like pop-up dinners. That'd be really cool too. Cool thing about pop-ups, so like you can, still get into the food industry without having to invest too much. Like you don't open a restaurant for the money. Like it's not going to be financially viable ever. Maybe, hopefully you do well, but So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be one of those things where it stays with me my whole life, and I love entertaining people and like having people over and cooking for people and educating people on food as well. I think food threatens people for some reason. Like, not everyone, but like sometimes just the idea of food like freaks people out. They're like, no, there's no way I could do that. I say it's not that hard. Like it's just tips. It's all just like tidbits of information, and then at some point you have to try it, and then all of a sudden you're comfortable. Like there's food is just it's a black hole of information, right? Like there's so much to talk about in terms of food, and but at the end of the day, you need food to survive. So I think it's a really important thing, and yeah.
I think it's funny. A lot of people find it really intimidating to cook or to approach meal making and maybe stick to their mac and cheese for their entire early adulthood until they're maybe forced, either when they have kids or what have you, to learn how to cook. And some people never do. I think that's the unfortunate turn of our world is it's really accessible to get fast food or skip the dishes or get pre-made things or like put it in the microwave food. That was the 90s way to raise your kids, at least.
And like I get it. Like it's a market built on convenience, right? Like I totally get that there is an easier way out. And people always make fun of me because they're like, "Oh, we don't want to be a food snob like you." I'm like, I'm not a food snob. Like I just think that you should invest a little time in food. That's it. Like I trust me. If I don't have time, I'll go get food out. Like I just don't go to the places you probably go to, which is fine. That's a choice I make, and I'm allowed to make that choice. But like I just think might as well enrich your life in more ways than one, and food is such a like amazing way to do it. So, and then there's culture aspects of it. Like, there's so many different cultures where food is like integral to everything. Like, it's just crazy. Like in the flamenco world, food is part of it. Like, just like having people together, food is a thing. Like, it's just a way to bring people together. So, and it's like that for many cultures, but. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just crazy because I think about food all the time, like every single part of the day. Like, yeah.
Do you have a food philosophy then in your cooking or what you create with it?
Yeah, I just try to like do like local ingredients and basically just, I mean, I spend a lot of money on good quality stuff. And, you know, it's not something I expect everyone to do. But I see the result, you know, in the food itself that I cook, and then as me as a better human. I find myself when I eat good food, I'm a lot happier. Yeah, I just try to buy good local ingredients and, you know, no crap. Try to limit the crap as much as possible. And that's another thing. Like, I don't expect people to buy like organic everything or anything like that. I try to like tell people, like, you know, like this X chemical does this, you know, like maybe next time you buy something off the shelf, just have a look at the ingredients, you know, try and buy something with less shit that's going to kill you.
Well, it's not going to kill you in the end.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean? Like, like it just, in the long run, maybe that's something you should just think about. And if you don't want to, that's okay. I feel obligated to at least try and tell people that.
Yeah, I think my shift with food, it's funny because I'm not even sure when I started to shift into being more passionate about food.
Right.
I've always worked in the restaurant, you know, in the service industry and worked in restaurants and typically as a bartender. So I'm not directly involved with the food, but I think food's always been integral to my life as well. But I was used to meal prepping and just chicken, rice, veggies and bland and no flavor or anything. But I find I'm a creature of habit. So if I can eat healthy, then I'm going to continue to eat healthy. And so that was a way to stay regimented. And so I'd have trainers or whoever give me a diet plan to follow. But then the problem with that is it becomes so mundane and routine. And so now training for Spartan races, it's more of I want to eat healthy because I certainly know what happens when I get off that train and I've been as heavy as 220 pounds, which I never want to be again. And then I've also been as skinny as 185. So it's like this window's huge. Yeah. But I think for me, as my philosophy now, which I shared with you on the way in, was paleo and pizza. Yeah. But it's trying to eat natural, healthy foods. But I also don't sacrifice flavor. I think that's the thing that's really come about.
I don't think you have to.
No.
I think that's a common misconception when it comes to healthy food. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, continue, yeah.
Well, whatever. I just let it happen. Yeah. But no, I think the biggest evolution to my cooking has been that Meal Lime app because it has a bunch of recipes that are super simple to make. But then it's also spices, just finding different spice combinations that work. And I like to balance out plates. So I would even say it's a little bit of an Eastern philosophy on cooking. I'm not sure the exact kind. Maybe it's an Asian country. I can't remember which one, Japanese. But like balancing out the different aspects of it. And typically I like to have three things represented. So either spicy, sweet, and salty or fresh. And I always find because it's nice to just, your palate gets a little bit more of an experience if you have different things represented. Yeah, totally. So it's a little bit of a mix. So it's healthy and then flavor. Those are the two things that I try to put on a plate. But then also there's the once a week where I don't want to cook. I don't want to really deal with things. Mind you, I made a lot of homemade pizza lately, so that's really nice too. My partner, significant other, she makes the dough and then I put on the toppings. So there's some kind of art to that too, I think. But it's fun. Like I find food can be so, it is a creative endeavor, and it's like, and you get to enjoy it at like the end product you get to enjoy. And so it's the care and the love that you put into it is what you take out of it too. Yeah.
I mean, you sit down at least 3 times a day, hopefully, to eat food, you know, like it's an important part of life because you're doing it every single day. So I think it's good to just put a little value into it. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. It's funny because the thing I like about food the most, or educating people about food the most, is like there's such simple ways to like drastically improve your food experience in the kitchen that are so simple, whether it's just like seasoning your food with salt and pepper. Like a lot of people don't do that, you know, like they wouldn't think to put pepper on their chicken breast or whatever, you know, like, and maybe that sounds really dumb, but it's a thing, you know, like There's really easy ways to just make food taste better. So I don't know. Hopefully one day I can just help people make it more relatable. That'd be nice. Like just to be able to teach people like simple ways to just make food more enjoyable. Without having it to be this extravagant thing.
It doesn't need to be difficult.
Yeah.
Good example is I recently switched to, I don't know if it was you or maybe my friend Dario who made me try it, but I'd never even heard of it before, the pink Himalayan salt. And so I switched from just regular table salt to that. Yeah, and I started putting on everything because I love it. Like it just adds that little extra to everything. And it's not like it doesn't make everything overly salty or overly, what's the word I'm looking for? But anyways, it's like, it tastes good. Like it just adds, like even in the morning, just as simple as putting it on eggs that I cooked, it just makes it that much more better. Because I eat eggs every day and they do get bland after a while.
Oh, yeah. I can't take full credit over that. So my go-to in the mornings now, and what's made me drink so much more water, which is my worst habit. I drink a lot of coffee. You can see even on the table that the water's untouched and the coffee's there.
You should see me like in the ballet class. I have like on any given day like full thing of coffee, a full thing of water, and then sometimes like a smoothie or like a coconut water drink. People are just like, "What is your deal?" Like,
but the one thing with the Himalayan salt was the Aubrey Marcus in his book has the morning shake or whatever it was, and it's the lemon with the Himalayan salt in the water. And so I'll do a big jug of that in the morning, and I carry it with me everywhere so that I always have my water in hand, because that is my worst habit. I can say honestly that I drink too much caffeine, not enough water. So
how much do you put in your water then for the salt?
Well, I would say it's probably a gallon of water that I carry around, and so I do the thing about 10 times, but it's probably less than, it's a couple tablespoons of salt, which is probably not recommended. You should probably do a little bit less for your morning drink. But then with the lemon, I find it just balances things out, and you get that little bit of sweetness. But it's also got a lot of really healthy properties in there too. So that's my go-to.
I try that out.
Yeah. Yes. Where were we going with that?
I don't know.
That's fine. It's totally okay.
Food's good.
Yeah, food is good. I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry too. What am I gonna have for dinner? Probably pizza.
I'm having curry, chicken curry.
Chicken curry.
Nice.
Oh, I did want to. So what's your go-to meal, or what's like the signature Stephan Azulay meal? Your name's fun to say. That's why
I like it. I like because it seems like one of those names you'd see on like on a package of I don't know, a dinner package or something.
Yeah. I have 3 middle names, so it's a mouthful. Oh man, that's the thing is I like to just do different stuff all the time. But I would say if I'm gonna have someone over and I want to impress them, probably risotto, like a mushroom risotto or something like that, or just like some handmade pasta with a pesto.
Oh, handmade pasta.
Handmade pasta.
I'm big into like handmade pizza dough and like handmade pasta. Those are my two. Like, I try to do everything from scratch. So it's very fancy when you do something that's like extravagant like that, and people are like, "Well, you know how to do that?" I'm like, it tastes really good too, So yeah, that's probably my go-tos if I'm trying to impress someone. But yeah, I've got so many different meals that I've made over the years that I don't really have like a one thing at any given time that I'm making. I just kind of make something and then move on to the next thing, and that's kind of it. Yeah.
I have 2. Well, other than the pizza, there is a signature Riley pizza, but I don't know if I should give away all my secrets. But one of my dishes, it's the coconut chicken curry with sweet potato in it.
Nice.
And it's kind of a soup, kind of a curry. But that's one of my favorite recent dishes that I've learned how to make.
Nice.
Yes, but I'm jealous of the handmade pasta and
nice.
pizza dough. So you bring the Australians and the pizza dough. I'll make the pizza,
Great.
and then life will be perfect.
Riley special.
The Riley special. I think it should be on a menu somewhere. So when you open that cafe / maybe there's a pizza night, a pizzeria. Who knows what it'll actually end up being?
Yeah, that's the question.
I might be willing to share the secret recipe. So is there any hope for me as a dancer with my thick legs and And heavy upper body and graceful being low on my list of attributes. I wrote that down for myself too, so I didn't forget.
I remind myself. So here's the thing: like anyone can dance, and I recommend that everyone, even if they think it's the most ridiculous thing in the world, goes and takes a dance class somewhere. You know, like it's on so many levels. It can be such a rewarding thing, whether it's just like because you had fun or you know, like it could be just be a workout. You know, like it's one of those things. Like a lot of people just play sports to work out. You can dance to work out, right? Like you can just go take a fun hip hop class and burn some calories. You know, if that's what you want it to be. Or if you want to like try something more creative, you can do a contemporary class. Ballet is one of those things where it's very difficult to start because it's a lot. It's one of those things, but they do adult classes at the ballet. And you know, like it's a great way to get into it. You know, like to kind of build an appreciation for it. I always say like, don't knock something down until you've tried it. You know, like it's once you like invest in something just a little bit, then you gain so much more appreciation for it. So I recommend everyone should go dance. You know,
what would you say to somebody wanting to get involved in dance?
I mean, it depends what kind of dance style they want to get into, if they even know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, there's a lot of factors in that question, really, for me. Depends how old they are. Depends what they want to do and why they want to do it. If it's something like, let's say if a young kid says, "I want to be a ballerina," I go, "Okay, well, let's look up some ballet schools in your area. I can suggest this, and this, and you know, see how it goes." Like. It's never good to just like put all your eggs in one basket, I think, because like especially with kids, you don't know if they're going to be interested in it a year later. So if they can come up with the interest to do it themselves, that's the best, because then you know they're going to want to commit to it. At the same time, though, like there's a lot of kids that like their parents make them do dance, and you can just tell that kids just don't want to do it. You know, like. You know, their interest is elsewhere. So I don't think you should force like dance on people. If they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. But yeah, like I think it's a really valuable thing. And even though it's like if you want your kid to be rich, then don't put them in dance. But it's one of those things. Like we joke, we say like if you can do ballet, you can do anything. Like there's so many life lessons within ballet and dance, for that matter, that. It's so valuable. It's really priceless, right? Like it's a really special thing. So yeah, I guess that answers the question.
Yeah,
I think so.
Are there any books or people that have influenced you on your path?
Books. Probably not books. I'm not really much of a reader. If it's the one fault I have is that I don't read. Something about it just I don't have interest in it.
I think that's okay. Like,
yeah.
I think for me, what I like about it is that there's so much knowledge, and it's everybody who's existed, who's written something down. I can almost have a conversation in a way with Marcus Aurelius, a Roman, you know, I guess he was not dictator. What was the name of the Caesar and
Oh boy.
Emperor? I just couldn't think of emperor. But it's almost, you can learn from his knowledge base and then the other people that have maybe done something similar to you. But it's almost, if you have other ways of getting that information, or if you learn from ballets that have happened or anything, right? Like, I think there's a lot of ways to find that knowledge. And so whatever works for you is what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find a lot of, like, I guess, inspiration in honestly just friends. There's a couple like teachers and like artists out there that are inspiring, but I think the most inspiration I've gotten is just from my friends and my peers and just people I know that impress me. And my parents were super inspirational, but at the same time, I never relied on my parents for too much. I mean, I moved away at 16, so like, you know, and that's fine. They're still super supportive, and they were great parents. But yeah, I think honestly, just cool people that you meet that's the biggest one for me.
Is there sort of like a one-upsmanship in, I'm almost thinking of dance, and even in Spartan for me is the peer group of people doing similar things push you to want to be better because you see what they can do, what they can
Yeah.
accomplish.
I think it's important to surround yourself with talent, right? Like I guess talent, but like motivated people and skilled individuals, and like in a ballet company, that's what you're going to get. So not that you're comparing yourself to others, but like you're pushing towards something great, right? And I think having people in the room that are sharing that aspiration is a great thing. I think it's amazing that you can share that, right? And you're not trying to step on anyone's toes to ruin their career or anything like that. But like you're just trying to work towards this great thing, and yeah, why not share it with other people?
That's a great thing to just be within the social group, but it's I would say it's very in the moment where
Yeah.
you're considering what other people are doing, and it's sort of, whereas books can be this thing of like these people that exist so far out of your circle, it's
Right.
almost like you're motivating each other and inspiring each other on a day-to-day basis, which makes a lot of sense if you're practicing side by side with people and or whatever you're doing, even if it's cooking or
Yeah.
taking photographs or
Yeah.
what have you. It's, you can draw that inspiration, and sometimes those are the things that hit home the most. Are like, I went climbing, as you can see by my hands being a little bit torn up earlier today, but you realize that there's levels of the skill, and I've been doing it for about 3 months. The first time I was just mostly playing around, then you get a little bit more competitive and want to be able to do things. But then you see the guys that have been doing it for 10 years that can grab the smallest little holds with their pinky and like things that you wouldn't even fathom, and they're able to do that. So that in itself, sometimes it can be daunting to see
Sometimes
people
it can,
at that level.
like it can not be depressing, but like it can steer you away sometimes. But I think it can be really inspiring too.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to Andy's quote where it's, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And so it is drawing on those people close to you. You can make it that much further, and that's what keeps you going back and keeps the enjoyment in it too. So what has been the most difficult thing to overcome in your life, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, I don't know. I've had a very good life, really. Uh, I guess just financial stuff, honestly. Just like, I mean, there's not much money in the arts, so you're never going to make that much money as a dancer. So that's probably the biggest issue I've had in my life. And really, the only way you can solve that is work more. So, hence all the side jobs.
Well, it seems crazy to me to withstand doing a full, like working towards ballet, working at a pizza place, and 14-hour days,
Yeah.
as you said, 8 days a week, and just,
Sorry, did I say 8 days a week?
you did say 8 days.
I meant 7.
You invented a day.
I meant 7. I don't know what I was thinking there. Sorry.
Saturday, Sunday, fun day.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I felt like 8 days a week, tell you that.
Yeah. But how do you still stay, positive and engaged and passionate about things, even if you're dealing with something such as exhaustion that might come from that too?
It's funny because I've never really thought about these things, to be honest.
No?
You just do it. That's such a lame answer.
Nike.
Yeah. Man. I don't know. I guess I've just been fortunate enough to have dance my entire life and like be like quite successful in it, and that in itself is enough for me to just, even when shit's rough, like on a day-to-day basis, you just push through it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think actually, you know what? Back up to the other question. I think now that I think about it, one of the hardest things for me sometimes is just because I've bounced around quite a bit, and I'm like always thinking about dance and pushing myself. Is like sometimes you get a bit like, I get a bit lonely, I guess, like because even though I have amazing friends and amazing support group, like I'm so focused on this one thing that I sometimes feel like I'm in my own world, which Yeah, it's not that really that big of an issue, but it's just interesting because sometimes like you'll just go home after a crazy week or a crazy year or a crazy month and just think, holy crap, like that was intense, and you don't really have anyone to share it with, right? Like, but yeah, I guess that's like kind of it really, and I don't know. I just feel like I would never even get myself to a point where I would think I don't really feel like I'm in this anymore. Like I think I was just really born to dance, to be honest. Like it's one of those things. Like it's always been a thing in my life. I've always had a good time with it. I'm always doing it extra. Like anytime you see me out, I'm dancing. I don't need to be. I tell you that. I'm not getting paid to dance at whatever bar or place, but I just do it because I have fun. And I think it's great. A lot of ballet dancers are not so good when it comes to like dancing in public. Like it's not really a thing that we do. Just because we're trained and perform in this controlled environment. Like it's not like we're club dancers, But I literally have my own GIF or GIF or whatever you call it of me dancing at a wedding. It's fantastic. So I just like every time something ridiculous comes up, I just send that out. Yeah, like I love to dance all the time, like all hours of the day, even when I'm, at home by myself in my apartment, and I put a fun tune on, like I just start dancing. So yeah, that's all I really got on that one.
I love that resoluteness and that sureness of how much you love what you do and things too. But that's great that I think that you do have a great balance in terms of the passion, and then you do have your friend group and the people that you reach out to and have those experiences with. But I do understand that loneliness too. It's like it is tough to find that like who understands what I'm going through. But I think that's what's got to be so bonding about the people that you perform with and are with on a day-to-day basis, because you're going through that together. So that even makes sense in terms of how you're so close to the people in Las Vegas and things too, is you just have that sense of community and they understand you. And I think that happens in almost all facets and all career paths and all passions. It's just you surround yourself with those people that do understand and that have had those similar experiences too. Did you? I thought you.
No. Covering all bases here.
Do you ever see yourself staying in a place for long and like settling down and enjoying, riding off into the sunset? That's a lot of things. So just
Yeah,
I don't know if you can settle down and then also ride off into the sunset.
true, but in a
mobile
sense
home?
of
I don't know. RV?
just a sense of comfort, I guess, as well.
No. The reason I move around a lot is basically if I feel like I'm not growing enough in any given place, then I disattach myself from that place and I go somewhere else. That's basically it. Like feels like it's not doing enough, then I find somewhere else to go. I guess eventually I'll I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have a plan to settle down anywhere. My mom's always like, "When are you coming back to Australia? When are you coming back?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't really know if I will." Like right now, I'm just in my, kind of prime time of my career, really. So all I can really think about is that, to be honest. I feel like if I think about, like, oh, where am I going to buy a house, and retire, that's not really doing justice to my career. Not that, you should think about that stuff, I guess. Like we have like a retirement savings plan at the ballet, so that's the way I think about it. Just putting money aside. But yeah, I don't really have any place that I think I will settle down. I do have like this idea of like the lifestyle I want to live, like have a like somewhat self-sustainable house, like maybe with like a little garden and like solar panels and like something neat like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a very like uncommitted person when it comes to like end game like life goals, I guess.
It's fair to think that those things will come in time.
Yeah.
And you're following what you feel that you should and what you're passionate about right now. So why do you have to have that picture fully in view?
Yeah.
It's sort of this ever evolving thing, right?
Yeah, I think maybe like I thought about it a bit more when like that person I dated for a long time, like, you know, when you're in a relationship for that long, you do think about those things. But yeah, like right now, there's no one like that for me, so I just can't really imagine it with anyone. And I don't imagine it by myself, so I just don't imagine it at all. So yeah, right now I just kind of, that's not even on the radar for me. I just kind of just think about my career here and things I can do to make it better, and kind of just, you know, long-term goals in terms of dance, and really it, to be honest. Kind of enjoy it as it comes.
Do you have a goal in mind for your career, or some place that you think that, will there ever be a time that you feel that you've made it within your ballet career?
No, there will never be a time where I think I'll made it. Well, I can't guarantee that, but I'm pretty sure that there will always be some point in my life where I think there's something more I can do. Like, that's just kind of the nature of artists in general, but just me as a person as well. I think for me, like, we'll see how it goes. Right now, I've been enjoying Royal Winnipeg a lot. It's a great company, and I've been doing pretty well. So I'm excited for the seasons to come. I hope that, you know, the company can continue to grow and do a bit better financially, and that'd be a really wonderful thing to be part of. And I really just want the company to grow as much as possible. So I'm going to do everything I can to help that. And you know, one day I would love to like start my own company somewhere after my career is done, if it's possible. And if it's not, that's fine, because money is impossible when it comes to starting companies. But just to be on the creative side of things, that'd be cool too. So, but right now, I feel like even if that's the long-term goal, the best way I can improve that is to be the best dancer I can be. So my entire focus is really just on me as an artist and as a dancer, and just being the best I can be. So kind of a cliche answer, I really guess so, but it works.
I like that you had director pose going on. You were just ready.
Yeah.
It seemed like you were ready to just direct somebody and tell them what they were doing, what they could do better. Maybe is the way to, or just go off on them. So what does it feel like performing on stage, and what keeps you motivated to keep working at your craft?
Stage, I guess stage time and stage experience is kind of a hard thing to describe in words, to be honest. It's like it's a really special thing, especially when, like, let's say like any ballet, for example, to be there for the creative process, and to then have this like final like image or thing, I guess, at the end of it, with the orchestra and with all the people backstage and the costumes and the lights and the, like, a full house. Like, it's, I don't know, it's the kind of shit we live for. So it's truly a magical experience. That being said, you know, like, some productions are better than others. So like right now we're doing Wizard of Oz, which is a collaboration between us and two other ballet companies, Colorado Ballet and Kansas City Ballet. And for a lot of the creation process, the person who choreographed it, Septine Weber, came here, and it's cool to be part of something like that from the beginning, you know. So to be part of the creative process is really cool, because then it's you know, like, a lot of classical ballets have been around for a long time. It's really hard to do new productions because money, and it's a lot of moving parts, and then, you know, to have it all come together successfully is difficult. So, you know, new productions are tough, but creations that work are like some of the most amazing experiences of your life, because, like, you're so invested. You're part of it from the beginning, and when you finally get to stage and it goes well, I mean, that is just the most amazing freaking feeling, like, ever, and it's like such a treat. Like, it's just amazing. So I'm super, like, this last week was intense, but we had so much fun in the studio, and it just made me, like, that much more excited for the shows, and I'm so excited to, like, continue working on it and have it grow, you know, because like, that's the thing, whenever you do a character like this, like, it grows as a character and the production grows, and it eventually becomes into something that's really incredible. So I'm super excited for that part of it. And stage time is just my favorite. I mean, it's amazing. So yeah.
That culmination of just nerves, excitement, and preparation, and
I mean, nerves are real.
Yeah.
Like that shit fucks people up.
Yeah.
You know, like just sometimes there's so much pressure that goes into it that, you know, like you learn to deal with it and you learn to like figure it out. But if you're not nervous, there's probably an issue. So
It's
yeah.
funny.
Or you're a
even-
robot.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Or you just don't care, which is fine, I guess.
Even something with this podcast, I always feel that the best ones, there's got to be that little tinge of nervousness.
Look at the sweat. This is real.
Oh man, you're worse than me.
Yeah.
Mine's
That's
hidden.
first.
There is a little bit underneath there. But yeah, it's always, I think there's just that feeling of, and especially when it's somebody new, sometimes when it's comfortable or somebody in the close group of friends or whatever it is, or just the close circle, you're just, you know what to expect.
Yeah.
But then with people such as yourself that we've never met before, it can be like, well, I don't know what they're going to expect of me and how I'm going to project, and we want to make that person comfortable. So it's just not knowing that process until you get there,
Right.
and wanting to get the person comfortable enough to be open to sharing their story. And sometimes the trials and tribulations they've been through is like, it can be a nerve-wracking process.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think the thing that bonds us to the people, like oftentimes that person's just as nervous. So it's how do we make that work? And then, but that's part of the science that we've started to see into behind podcasting. But I think all things worth doing, you're going to have those little bit of nerves behind it. Or anything that you've invested yourself in and is coming to fruition, I think you're going to be nervous about. It's just, I think that's what people live for. And that's sort of how you know you're on the right path too. If you didn't feel those nerves, you're either crazy or or you're just not invested enough.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not that it should be uncomfortable, but like, you know, like it should like get your, not blood boiling, but you know, like like if it's, it means that it means something, right? So I think it's a great thing. Nerves are fantastic, as long as it doesn't affect you in the wrong way. But like in ballet, like that can be a huge issue, is anxiety, and people freak out. And then when you freak out on stage, it just gets worse. You know, especially when you're partnering and stuff. Like the worst thing is when, you know, like one of the partners freaks out and then affects the other person. You know, like it's really unfortunate. But yeah, it's something that we deal with, and you have to learn to control, and everyone has different ways to do it. But yeah.
Confidence, nerves, and fear. But they are motivating factors.
Totally, yeah.
The last question I wanted to ask is, if you could share one piece of advice to somebody wanting to follow their passion in life, what would you say to them? I'd like to see you processing this.
Once I say something, it's out. So I just wanna,
That's it.
I want to.
No going back.
Yeah, I want to just. You can edit the pause out of the podcast.
I like the pause. It's very dramatic.
It's the consideration behind it.
I just think, just don't have regrets is my biggest thing. Like, just commit to it, whether it's wrong or right, whether it was for better or for worse. Just like, I guess, commit and see where it goes. You know, like, I think something that I do too much, honestly, is think. But like when it's in the studio, it's fine. But like, I think way too much about stuff on a daily basis, and I think it just takes you away from just doing something. Mike, you better send me a check. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, like just commit and don't regret it. Like whatever the choice is, you know, just make some choices and stick with it. I think that's the biggest thing. If you're trying to pursue something, it's all about the journey anyway. So, you know, at the result, what was the quote? It leads to nowhere, no matter what. Yeah.
There's two paths. They both lead to nowhere.
Yeah, like just I think, be in the moment and commit is the biggest thing I would say to anyone, really.
Perfect.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think
Simple.
it's very similar to my own mindset too. It's just like sometimes, and I'm the same way, as I get caught up in my own mind, and I think sometimes that's the hardest thing. And also I come up with so many ideas, but it really is having that conversation, or really being introspective and going, okay, what's the path? Let's go down there and commit to it, and just whatever comes, like, be open to those experiences. Be open to meeting that person upstairs. You never know those little turns that are going to take you to that spot that you were supposed to be in all along. And I think people get caught up in that, and I'm guilty of that, of just letting that become crippling or paralyzing and overthinking things. It's almost the fact that even a step in the wrong direction, if you have this, it doesn't even have to be a set outcome, or even if it is, that can shift and evolve and change. It's like, just go do, commit to it. If you feel strongly enough about it, if you're passionate about it, if your heart tells you to go there. I mean, there's so many different factors, but I think oftentimes we just don't have that conversation with ourselves.
Yeah.
Or we get caught up in life is telling me all these, all the stresses of life and all these things are telling me, why I shouldn't do this, and you come up with excuses. But just being true to that and going towards it, I think that's where you find your purpose and your true power.
Yeah, I think for me, if there's good intention behind it, I support it 100%. Like no matter what, no matter whether it's someone following a passion or just every decision that you make as a human, like if it has good intentions, I support it, like, and if it was a mistake or it was something wrong, then yeah, we can deal with that. But as long as you're not, intending to do something shady or shitty, then I'm all about it, So yeah, I just think don't look back, and you can always adjust your course, it's fine.
Yeah.
Live life to the fullest, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Start where you are now.
Yeah.
All right. So to conclude, where can we keep up with the adventures of Stephan Azulay?
Yeah.
And
do you know my full name?
I do want to get the other three names.
Yeah. Maybe off podcast.
Yeah, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But and the Royal Winnipeg Ballet and the upcoming Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. So Wizard of Oz is the last thing in our season, which runs until May 5th. So we'll have 2 months off, and then the first thing we'll do next season is Ballet in the Park. But you can check out the ballet at rwb.org, or follow me on Instagram, or follow the ballet on Instagram. It's RW Ballet is the tag, the Instagram handle, I believe. And yeah, we post regularly about our show dates. You can subscribe like a full season, or you can just buy tickets as they come. If you're under 35, there's this thing called Access Point, which is you get $30 tickets to any show, and they're good seats too. So bonus if you're younger. I'm always pretty accessible, like on Instagram, or you'll probably see me around coffee shop or a restaurant, or just, I'm always willing to talk to people. So you can always seek me out. I'll never say no. So unless it's a bad thing. So yeah, if that answers that question.
Yeah, for sure. We know where to find you. We know the RWB. We know the upcoming show. But yeah, I wanted to thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Yeah.
It's been kind of cool to just that's how this podcast works, is all of a sudden the Winnipeg world just becomes that much bigger, and smaller at the same time, finding guests. But it's really cool to get your perspective on ballet and life and food and all these different experiences you've had. I think I'm jealous of how resolute and sure of yourself and the path that you are. So it's awesome. I'm glad to have that perspective and have this conversation and chat with you on all this.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's been a blast. This is awesome. It's an awesome thing you guys got going on. So
thank you.
You are a very inspiring person too. Just in what Riley said too, that have that absolute and knowing what you want to do and just being able to figure out how to do it your entire life. That's truly inspiring.
I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot.
And as always, we're Be the Change. Be the Change YPS on social media, so on both Facebook and Instagram. This is my radio voice, if you didn't notice. info@bethechangeYPS.com is our email if you ever have anything for us, information or guest ideas or something you want us to chat about on the podcast. Check us out on the website. We have all the former episodes on there at BeTheChangeYPS.com. I can't think of any announcements that we might have. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've seen you, but life happens. And but
hopefully more regular going forward now.
yes, hopefully more regular and much more, I don't know, what's the word? Consistent going forward.
Yeah.
That is something that we strive for, but it just happens to, but we're always happy to come back and have these conversations. And I don't think we see well, in the foreseeable future, we're going to have podcasts. And we have a lot of guests coming up and a lot of things to bring towards you. So subscribe on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you happen to be listening.
Hit all the buttons
Just
somewhere.
hit all the buttons, press the like, and maybe say 4 words or more
On Instagram.
on Instagram.
Kick those algorithms in the butt.
And that's all.